good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Doppler's Gear Garage. I hope wherever it is that you are having an awesome Saturday. So, first things first, there we go. David, always a pleasure. Welcome aboard. Before we actually get to the raising him up, let me know, first of all, where it is that you're coming from, what you've got in store for this weekend. In case we haven't met, my name is Doug, and this is Doppler's Gear Garage, and you are absolutely invited to ask questions kind of about anything related to gear, music business, or whatever. Today we're going to be, hey, Chris, you made it. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hold on. No, don't. There we go. Good morning, my friend. Always a pleasure. Griffin Gaines. Oh, right there. Woosah, as they would say, but for the good reasons. You know, the funny thing is that Jimmy Page is a guy, for men of a certain age, that... that was before, honestly, before Eddie kind of exploded on the scene, Jimmy Page was the icon of what guitar players wanted to sound like. And I remember I always loved to refer to Little Dougie, and I just remember my first two, do me a favor, down in the chat, what were your first two rock records? For me, it was Led Zeppelin 1 and Toys in the Attic. And I had my little record player, and I just remember bringing those records home with so much excitement. I got them at the Warehouse, for those of you that remember the Warehouse. You got to have a little gray in your hair probably to remember all of that. But I just remember taking ownership of that music in a very special way, right? There's a certain thing that happens in some ways that doesn't really happen on Spotify, where you have that album and that jacket and that experience, the emotional connection that you have, you know, when you go through your old records, or for Chris, you were talking about your CD collection the other day. I love that. You take hold of that thing, and it becomes something that you not only possess for the sake of owning, right? You own an iPhone, but like, you know, when you get the, hey honey, when you get the next iPhone, you chuck the old one, right? You're like, it's done, right? Planned obsolescence. But those old albums and those old CDs, you know, you kind of grab them, and they take you to a place that is not only the place that you kind of started that journey, but kind of that journey all the way across there. In any case, John Mello, good morning. Record Factory, come on, bring it on. So the Record Factory, actually the employees used to take the records home. They had a little vinyl sealing machine in the back. What do you call the wrap? But they used to basically, the employees would take the records home, play them, and then bring them back and repackage them. It was kind of a thing about the Record Factory. I guess that's why they call it the Record Factory. They kind of wrap their own. In any case, those were such really special times. And Jimmy Page did so much to give the essence of guitar. So one of the things I want to talk about today is I've had a couple of things in mind. First of all, I've gone a little hog wild on the salutations. I love greeting people and going, good morning, John, how you doing? However, I kind of, at the end of the last week's show, I'm like, you know, I spent a lot of time saluting, which I absolutely love the spirit of, but I find myself just getting a little, thank you, Cellophane, come on. Ron, what's happening? There you go. Greetings to you. All right, I think we're far enough along in this celebration that we definitely need to take this moment and, you know it's coming, raise them up. So I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. Again, if we haven't met, my name is Doug. But first, coffee, and it made a difference this morning. Let me know where it is that you're coming from, what it is that you're drinking, and what guitar you're going to be playing today. I've got a couple of things I want to talk about. The sound of the different scales that we play. One of the biggest challenges guitar players have is that they don't play by ear. At a certain point, we start playing by eye. Now, what the hell does that mean? Well, it means that if you look at your guitar neck, you see those same rutted paths that you run across the neck in pattern number 1 of the minor pentatonic, or whatever 3-note per string mode or second finger root mode that you live in. And those, first of all, what's great about those is those are places you can mine style. However, for many of us, that's a great place to mine mediocrity. And by mediocrity, I mean we play the same stuff over and over without a sense of newness to it. And one of the things about, again, discovering those first albums, there was a newness about, like, oh my word, this Led Zeppelin one, holy cow. And, You Shook Me was one of those songs that I go back and listen to it today, and I'm actually more amazed by it than I was then, because I kind of go, how in the world did they have that swagger, that depth of field? It's just who they were. But Led Zeppelin was just so iconic in so many different ways. And Jimmy Page's guitar playing, and Robert Plant's vocals, and Bonzo, and John Paul Jones, just the whole thing. And the keyboards, holy cow. Like, they had the whole deal, and it was so figured out on the first record. It's kind of like a Van Halen one, right? All right, so the point being is that playing by ear, I'm going to suggest that A, being the world's most common pentatonic key, is a great place to start, because you can use the open strings to find your root. And be able to find the roots. And learn to be able to develop the sense of touch. I'm getting pretty good at being able to kind of march around and know where my A's are. I guess that makes me an a-hole. And then once you kind of you start playing around those A's. So there I kind of walked up the high string, and just for sake of conversation, the minor pentatonic, one of the most important things of when we're playing by ear, I'm going to check in on the chat in just a second. Nick, good morning, great to see you, is a really clear understanding what's happening intervallically. And as a number of you know, I'm working on a pentatonic course, and I'm taking my time because there are things about this that, first of all, are dramatically impacting and changing my playing, but I'm also discovering things that I knew that I didn't know, and that I didn't know that I knew. And the more I've been playing the minor pentatonic intervallically, the more the deeper things go. And the challenge, again, that many of us have as we begin to play is we kind of just play at the same surface level for a couple of different reasons. So I want to kind of talk about some of the varied reasons beyond that. But first of all, intervallically, you got a minor third, major second, minor third, major second, going backwards, major second, minor third, major second, minor third. So basically, you've got these two minor thirds, the first one happening between the 1 and the flat 3, if you will. Then between the flat 3 and the 4, and the 4 and the 5, you have 2 major seconds. Then your other minor third between the 5 and the flat 7, and the flat 7 of the 1 again is a major second. So that's minor third, major second, minor third, major second, as long as I play the right note. And backwards, major second, minor third, major second, minor third, major second, minor third. And just going through that, really allows your ears and your fingers to just get connected. Now, I would suggest not initially doing that, calling out 1, flat 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 7, 5, 5, 4, 4, flat 3, 1. But at some point you might want to do that, as well as going A, C, C, D, D, E, E, G, G, A, G, E, D, D, C, A, G, G, E, E, D, D, C, C, A. And that way you have a sense of actually what those notes are, why that matters. That A, C, E, A, C, E, A, C. Those are the notes of the... those notes. As you sit against the root, those are the notes you're going to finish your phrases on. So I'm going to basically... And so knowing where what I refer to, those are the sweet notes versus the... You don't want to hang out there. And you don't want to hang out there. And the great thing about once you internalize all of that, because I think the thing that happens to so many of us, and the great thing is, many of us, most of us, are visual learners, which means that when we see kind of the shape of the pentatonic written out on a page, we can go, oh, okay, got it. 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 4 1 4, or 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 at the third and sixth, third and fifth, third and fifth, third and fifth, third and sixth, third and sixth frets. Or sorry, fifth and eighth. Sorry, I thought it was in G. Fifth and eighth. Well, I guess I knew I was in A, didn't I? Fifth and eighth, fifth and seventh, fifth and seventh, fifth and seventh, fifth and eighth, fifth and eighth. Got so excited I wanted to go back to G. By the way, if you're looking for a good key to kind of go all the way up and down the neck with the minor pentatonic, G is a great key to do it with. However, the reason I started with A today, it allows you to use that open string to be able to easily find where those A's are by ear. And after a while, what starts to happen is you just start playing by ear rather than by sight. And I got to tell you, it has transformed my playing. Now, the same thing holds true. Playing with the modes. So I'm also going to throw something at you, just taking the A major scale, which basically is A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, G sharp, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, B, A, which you think is whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. 2 wholes and a half, 3 whole steps and a half. And the idea... If you notice what I was doing there with the modes, felt a lot like what I've been doing with the pentatonic. And if that's something that is attractive to you, it's just a matter of just sitting there and, again, picking A. That would be B flat, by the way, just in case you were wondering. Which could be Phrygian. Anything about... We'll run with the Phrygian thing for a minute. And I know that that is going to be my flat thread. By sound, I guess that means that's an A, that's a B flat, and it's going to be a C. But the whole point of... I hit a B instead of a B flat. Oh, sorry, I hit again on B. This is one of the things about muscle memory and visual memory. You just keep going in the same places. I hit that B again. B flat. But what's happened happened is I started playing by touch and by ear. I came back and started seeing what was happening to my modal playing. I'm like, well, I'm playing this stuff so differently. I'm like, it was an unexpected outcome of the good kind. All right, let me just check in and say hello. First of all, holy cow, so many friendly faces. Look at this. A quick announcement. I'm going to, in the description on, let's see, is it going to be in here? There we go. I think this came through on YouTube, but it doesn't let me do it on Facebook. A couple of things that are happening here. I am getting ready to start releasing music. 2 weeks from yesterday, the first single, and now it's going to be basically this every third week a single is going to drop. I am re-releasing the first single from Ground Zero. That album is 30 years old and really hard to imagine. It came out in 1995. 2025, here we are 30 years later. And so that's going to give me a chance to kind of, first of all, bring that music to Spotify. A lot of people have never actually heard that album. Some folks like Chris Alexander own that album. Thank you very much. And so the idea is we're going to drop some singles for that. Then in the midst of that, I've also put together, I'm not going to share it yet because I'm doing a little bit of fine tuning, but I put together, for those of you that are crafty, I put together a really cool Spotify playlist that's called Sultans of Strings. So if you're just kind of too antsy, because I'm still moving just a couple little things around at the tail end there, I realized I hadn't added Jessica. Like, how can you have an instrumental playlist of the instrumental songs that kind of mattered to you and not have Jessica on there? I was like, oh my word, if the instrumental police find me, straight to jail. All right, so the point being is that I'm very excited about this, and you can help by just supporting this stuff in any way that you can. All right, back to our previously scheduled programming. Let me just very quickly check in here. Again, Nick, good morning. Okay, Chris leaving. Eric, always a pleasure, my friend. Good morning. As I mentioned a little earlier, I've been going salutations heavy, so I'm going to lighten up on the guitar salutation. As incredibly tempting as it is. Emmanuel, hello. Ciao, Bella. Como estai? Sonny, what's happening? Reno, holy cow. Say that 3 times fast. Whatever it was that I said. Braden, what's going on? Still walking the dog this morning, but last night was a Strat gig. Yes, tonight's gig as well. Custom Strat, handmade myself. Well done. Awesome. Way to go. Mark, good morning. Mastery of those scales and modes is mind-boggling. You know, the funny thing is, if you can either count to 5 or you can count to 7, it's literally just a matter of going, hey, in the same way that we paint the shapes visually, if we're just as good at beginning to paint them by touch and by feel, then we're able to better connect by feel. And I think that's one of the things that, I remember seeing you playing, at the Paul Gilbert camp. It takes a lot of, as they would say, cojones to stand up next to Paul Gilbert and just play as incredibly well as you did. And I was like, oh, that guy's got a tone. And when I think of a guy that's got a tone, the first thing that comes to mind is like, doesn't matter what they plug into, that guy's going to sound great. They know how to find that thing. They don't need to have preset number 128 that's got the dotted eighth on one side and the quarter on the other. They just sit down and they just make whatever they're playing through work because the tone's in the hands. So one of the things about being fixated on the shapes is we're trying to find the magic in something that arguably is just a shape. Now, the shapes are drawn, as we're getting back to kind of a little micro teaching moment. If I were to take this minor third, major second, minor third, major second, that's where that shape comes from. So when you begin to think of a minor third, major second, minor third, major second, minor third, major second, minor third, major second. Sorry, I left the box. He's left the farm, ladies and gentlemen. How'd you start playing that shit? I left the box again. And then you start kind of playing it much more by ear and by touch and not looking, because when we look, we haven't just kind of like, oh, there's that note that I always go to, and sure enough, like magnetism, you're like, no. Ooh, that was kind of like, oh, I kind of popped the neck there. That was kind of had. All right. In any case, I get humored by the stupidest things. But the other thing, one of the things I've been working with my students a lot in, it's just beginning to hear not only dyads, but triads through these different versions. So you really kind of get used to. And just a. So you know where. Because once you kind of know, all right, well, I know where my pentatonic, and I know why it's drawn intervallically. Now, as we get back to our Dorian, as I started a minute ago. And by the way, I've talked about this before, but for those of you that are three-note string mode players and wanting to blend, or anybody, sorry, that wants to blend the modes in the minor pentatonic, the best place to do that is on the top two strings, and just take my word for it. If the minor pentatonic goes 1 flat 3 4 5 flat 7 1 flat 3 4 5 flat 7 1 flat 3 4 5 flat 7 1 flat 3. So basically, it's your 1 flat 3 4 5 flat 7 1 flat 3 5 flat 7 1 flat 3. So if the Dorian mode goes 5 6 flat 7 1 2 flat 3, and Phrygian goes 5 flat 6 flat 7 1 flat 2 flat 3, and minor goes 5 flat 6 flat 7 1 2 flat 3. All right, well, that's nice for those of us that know the theory behind it. What if we're looking for a really good hack? So if I'm wanting to take the A minor pentatonic and blend in the notes of the Dorian mode, I will go to the 3-note per string mode, a whole step down, which would be major. And what happens is the top two strings fill in that natural 6 and that natural 2. And if you want to do Phrygian, you go a whole step down and play Dorian. That gives us our flat 6 and our flat 2. If we want to play minor, we go a whole step down and play Mixolydian. So the point being is like you're just looking at either 5 notes or and it's just a sound, but once you have some ways of categorizing that, you just kind of know where you are in the midst of all of that. Okay, hope that was a help. Always a pleasure. Albert from the Overcast 92 280 interchange. That almost sounded like a greeting. I take that back. No, I don't. Gilberto, buenos dias, ¿cómo está? I'm a giant in my own mind. Buenos dias, amigo, ¿cómo está? Igualmente, muchas gracias. Y usted? A usted. Mike, what's happening? I'm trying to overcome my cork sniffer anti-FFO bias right now. I love you. All right, so if you're still here, so I just have to riff on that because you know what? I was that guy. I'm like, okay, you know, it's like Epiphone, you know, it's kind of like, you know, I'm a professional guitar player. I can't be seen playing an Epiphone. And this guitar showed up. Well, actually, there's a guitar that's upstairs that I bought. I bought an Epiphone Firebird. And I was like, first of all, it was so, I'm just going to say it, sexy. I was like, I got to have this guitar. And I've done, there were a number of songs in the development process of the vocal album that were a result of the things that I played on that guitar. This guitar showed up from my friends at Gibson and Epiphone, and I'm just going to say it's one of the best Les Pauls I've ever played. It plays great. Feels like my old 76 Standard that I sold to get my 71 Custom that I sold because I was stupid. Except my 76 Standard didn't sound as good. And not like that. And it's kind of gorgeous. And it's not a bolt-on neck. It's made in China. It basically just kind of like, I went, all right, I'm over myself. Me and my shallow ego. I am actually about to buy a second one of these. The challenge that I've got, am I going to buy another red one? Because when I do this is going to become one of my stage guitars. I'm like, you know what? I'm just over it. But I totally feel you, because I'm like, well, I couldn't play an Epiphone. I mean, it's just like, I was like, you know what, and I'm not saying this about you. This is my conversation. Now, let me not share what I said about myself about, because it was like, first of all, I totally feel you on that. And I love the fact that you just totally copped it, because you and I, same boat. All right. So this is the 60s one. It's got a slightly smaller neck, and I flippin' love this guitar. The neck is, and I think I mentioned this last week or the week before. The thing about a slightly smaller neck is, first of all, the Hendrix chords and being able to kind of play the minor pentatonic with your thumb over the top of the neck, where with a larger neck, it begins to become a little bit of a problem, and it's just super, super, super comfortable. Sylvain, great to see you. Hello. Sly Richard, good morning. All right. Thank you very much, Ron. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Magister. All right. Okay, hang on a second. I can do this. Hold on. Copy text. Hang on a second. Hold on. I'm going to presume that is, hold on just one second. All right, German to English translation, because I'm going to believe that's going to be German. Don't get involved with a little guy. Your problem, not mine. Escape Mexico and work tack shop and Gibson Standard. If you're going to do that, that's a professional guitar. Hold on. Don't get involved with that little guy. Your problem, not mine. Escape to Mexico and work in a tack shop and Gibson Standard. Okay, Google Translator, because I am absolutely positive that's not what you meant. So Google Translator is on crack. In any case, I wish I could understand that better. So in any case, Guten Morgen or Guten Nacht or whatever it is. Steve Karras, my man, great to see you. Hello. Look at that pretty guitar in that photo. Right on, my man. Great to see you. We need to get on the phone there. Uh-oh. Wait, hang on. Okay. Hold on. Let's try this again. Let's try a little more. All right, let's delete that. Let's try this and see what it says. I'll never buy screws from Mesa again. What else do you have there? It seems like back pain. Why is your skin so red? Okay, bye. Holy cow. I don't know why my skin's so red. It's probably because I'm laughing so much. In any case, first of all, if you got questions down below, theory, guitars, gear, screws, why my face is red, and anything, maybe what's your next gear acquisition, and are you on the fence about, like, should I get the Friedman, should I get the Boogie, all of those things, drop it down below. New heavy metal album title, Atone for Your Sins. Oh. Gotta have the flat 5, right? So those of you who don't know, that was called the Devil's Interval. I have no idea why. In any case, I love pre-bands as well as to add some interest. Yeah, the pre-band. So that's one of the other things that when you start playing by touch. You start bending in places that you wouldn't normally bend because you're playing in places on the neck that you wouldn't normally play. Because you start kind of going, oh, I hear going here. And then what happens is as you start looking again, all that new information causes you to be able to do all the things that you normally do when you're looking at the neck and bring that in. So it's not to abandon that stuff, but the problem is most of us spend so much time playing the regurgitated licks that when we look at the neck, we just kind of blah, 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 vomit it out. So that's one thing. Let me just make sure that let me get caught up on the chat here real quick, and then we're going to jump back into a little bit more teaching. Radar, good morning. Always a pleasure, my friend. Look at that cute photo. Gosh darn it. This Epiphone sounds like a Gibson. What pickups are in it? So are they original, and have I replaced them? With pleasure. So it's a funny conversation that you and I are having, that I'm having with myself. I'm kind of like, I've got a number of Les Pauls here, but I was like, if I were to go out and buy another Gibson Les Paul, where would I start? And the interesting thing is this plays as good and sounds as good, if not better, than a lot of Gibson Les Pauls that I've played. And that's one of the reasons why I basically every time, and this is okay. This is the ultimate thing. I know a number of you, like myself, have a bunch of guitars. But when I pick up one guitar and I cannot put it down, I don't want to stop playing. I'm like, okay, I need to take notice of that. So literally every time I sit down with this guitar, I'm like, if I have to go do something, I'm like, oh, maybe another 5 minutes, I can sneak that in. And it just makes me want to keep playing. I'm like, so to answer your question, I've read in 2 different places, so I need to do a little bit more research. The Pro-Bucker 1 and 2 or the 2 and the 3. So I'm actually in the middle of a video on this guitar, so by the time I'm done, I will have a definitive answer. The Epiphone website says one thing, Sweetwater says another. So it's usually Sweetwater is right. But saying that Sweetwater is right and the Epiphone website is wrong, it's an interesting thing. But the thing about the pickups in this guitar, they're probably the best match set of Les Paul pickups I've ever played. The bridge pickup. Oh, I'm not all the way up. Sorry, let me go back to the bridge. Middle. Neck. They work really well when you line up. Just like, holy cow. And the funny thing is, so to answer your question, I've not changed the pickups. The other thing that I pretty much do on every Gibson that I have is the first thing I'll do is I'll march out and I'll put locking tuners on there. Haven't changed the pickups, haven't changed the tuners. Go figure. Just kind of in shock. So great question. Thank you for asking. Miguel, good morning, mi amigo. Mi buen amigo, ¿cómo está? Look at that Ibanez right there. Rocking the fire. The Paul Gilbert fireman, right? Andrew, what's happening? Let's all get an Epiphone RD. The RD. Now, you have to be, so I see a little bit of gray there. So you have to be old enough to know what an RD is unless you follow Fluff. So the RDs were kind of like an explorer, but not quite as exploring. Really cool guitars. I never owned one. Tom Atkins, good morning. There we go. That is terrific. Whatever I said, holy cow. What Epi changed the headstock. When Epi changed the headstock, now DD is giving me gas. I'm gaseous. So there are some of the Epiphones now that actually have a full, traditional Les Paul style headstock. I actually, the funny thing is another conversation I was having with myself yesterday was like, I'm not super happy with the aesthetic of this headstock. If I'm honest, I prefer the aesthetic of, because I'm used to the Gibson headstocks. I was like, well, is that just me being a dick, or do I just not really like that visual? And I think on a hollow body, I love the visual of this. I think it totally works. But on a Les Paul, it just feels wrong. Maybe I'm just dumb. Brian Newman. In any case, great to see you. Hello, 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 hello. The V is upstairs. No, it's over there, just out of the frame. So good morning, my dear friend. I trust you're doing great. You know that Shanker's getting ready to... Actually, he may already be back out on the road with our good friend Jared James Nichols supporting. Maybe I'll see you at a show. Brad, what's going on, my man? Great to see you as well. I hope you're doing great. The instinct to do the salutation, I'm refraining this morning, but... So yes, original pickups, and do you modify your Epiphones with aftermarket pickups? So the interesting thing is there's a second Flying V that's in the process of being radically transformed. It's getting a mini humbucker in the neck, a Satch track in the middle, and a hum-canceling P90 in the bridge, and a floating Floyd Rose. So I am super stoked. So that's going to be kind of the V number 2. And the thing about having the floating tremolo, the top mounted tremolo that's on the other V, it just doesn't really like to stay in tune in the floating mode. So I kind of had to just kind of deal with the FRX. But I love having that on top, and you didn't have to route the guitar. This guitar's had major surgery, but I'm gonna get it back sooner than later. So awesome. All right, Mike, Sweetwater Epiphone. There we go. Thank you very much. Yes. Oh, look at you. You're like, all right, let me go take a look at this. Gosh darn it. And to answer the implicit question that somebody's asking, there is a maple cap, and then there is a maple laminate that's on top. So this kind of figured thing is a laminate. But, ironically... Like, if I were to go out and look for another Les Paul, I'd basically kind of want this guitar. So that's probably why, because I'm about as committed to making this one of my other stage guitars as I could be. So which means I need to have 2. That is to say, when you have a primary stage guitar, you need to have a hot swappable backup. Now, ironically, what I'm doing with the 2 Vs, I'm actually deviating from that. But I opted to kind of create 2 different builds so I can kind of explore if I like having a hump-canceling P90 in the bridge, because I have a feeling, especially with the floating tremolo, that I'm going to really dig that. So the original Flying V sitting over there, it's going to stay as it is. But for now, I'm going to kind of just try a couple of things. Good morning from Texas. I have 4 Epiphones. Come on. 2 Les Pauls, a Flying V, and ES355. I've been happy with all of them. You, my man. So I am thankful, blessed, grateful. I'm a Gibson Epiphone and Mesa Boogie endorser. He hates it when I call him this, and I love that he hates it in a good way. My handler, and I have a number of conversations, and you, my friend, are in a great way the poster child or man of exactly the person that I'm most passionate about reaching. I'm going to be finishing up the gear demo for this guitar today. It didn't happen last night, and that'll probably push out first thing tomorrow morning. But the thing about this guitarist is that the range of styles and tones that it does, as you know about your collection, is great. And so the neat thing is that there's a whole group of people that, first of all, if you go out and bought that in Gibson, you're well over the $100,000 mark. And in the Epiphone world, you're not. And these instruments are so well made. Found out which factory this is made in China. And I'm hoping to get to China at the very least by the end of 2026. And I'm really excited to go and meet the people that made this guitar and tell them how much I love it and how much what they do actually matters. So I really appreciate you sharing that. What do I think of the Triple Crown? I think that there's one over there and there's one over there. That is to say, I love the Triple Crown. I guess I haven't called it out this morning, but I'm playing through the Mark 7 today. Gosh darn, it's a great sounding amp. Way too much fun. So I love the Triple Crown. Short version is I'm in the midst of finishing up 2 albums and kind of toggling now that we're starting releasing singles for Ground Zero. Again, August 9th, Friday. We're going to release I think I can say it here. We're going to release the first half of Swagger as side 1. That's the instrumental album. The new instrumental album after we're done kind of pushing out Ground Zero. So then we're going to release the first half of the vocal album, which is called Joyride. So side 1 of Swagger, side 1 of Joyride. So, singles every 3 weeks, ... Then you put that together in basically a virtual EP on Spotify and bundle that up. For those 2, then you do the second side, quote unquote, of Swagger, and then the second side of Joyride, and then you bundle that up. And then once those are bundled up, then they're going to be CDs that are available for those like Chris Alexander that love CDs. So the point being is that super, 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 super excited about the different amps that I'm kind of putting together in the midst of this. So getting to your specific point in a long-winded answer with a little more caffeine. The Triple Crown is an amp that my buddy Albert, there was one in the paper here with a 412 cabinet for like $1,400. And Albert was like, you need to go check this out. And I plugged into him like, oh, I've got to have this amp. Because I'm collecting different sounds and each one of these amps has its own particular, very unique voice. So when you're putting together a vocal album, as well as an instrumental album, the rhythm guitars are so important. And the tone and the way the parts sit, so important. So the right voicing of the amp is very important. So one of the things in the production process, and I will just say it in advance, I'm a bit of an expensive friend, is I will use a pair of amps such that I can see by the time I'm done double tracking if I were to double track versus using just the 2 amps, maybe set them slightly differently, or maybe use a different IR. And just if I'm digging the vibe of that sound without having to double track, to lay the first track, then double track it, that is literally twice as much production time, and I don't have that much time. So the ability to have those 2 Triple Crowns, and they sound great, just one, they sound even better if there's 2, and they're flipping great amps. I love them. Great clean tone, great crunch channel, great lead tone, great amp. So that's what I think of the Triple Crown. Definitely do. That's my 2011 Les Paul Traditional with Greg's Fluence humbuckers. Speaking of bias, right on. Not your daddy's humbuckers. Come on. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, that's a pretty looking guitar right there. Mamma mia! All right, Steve, what's happening? I don't know if we've met, so welcome, welcome, welcome. I feel that way about my newly acquired Schecter C1 Platinum, loving playing more than my old Gibson. So, here is the crazy thing is, I don't know where your Schecter is manufactured, but I will say there was a period of time, for those of us that have enough gray in our hair to remember, like, oh, I don't want to play a guitar from Japan. Oh, I don't want to play a guitar from Korea. Oh, I don't want to play a guitar from China. It's like, kind of, that's all changed in a really, really good way. It's kind of a new day. So I don't know where your guitar was manufactured, but congratulations. The idea is like, I just want to sit down and flip and play. Love it. Nice to meet you. Welcome aboard. You got any questions? Hit them. This weight relief. No, it doesn't. This one weighs in at 9 pounds, which isn't super heavy. I weighed it the other day because, like I said, I'm getting ready to get another one. My recommendation for a practice amp, I absolutely have it. It is the Line 6 Catalyst 100 112 combo. There is a slightly newer version of it that I'm going to forget the designation of it, but the older Catalyst 100 CX is the new one. That's right. I prefer the older Catalyst 100, and it is the best-selling $400 combo on Reverb, period, all day long. Great amp. A huge amount of the pre-production that I did for both the vocal and the instrumental album were done on that amp. Amazing sound. I used to use it on live stream. The thing that's particularly great about it, of a number of things, it's got great tones, but the sound coming out of the amp when you go direct out into whatever you might be going into, like a DAW or something, or just your computer to kind of get your sound in the box, it sounds so close, that is, say, the direct out sounds so close to the sound coming out of the front of the amp, it's just nuts. It means that in any situation, you, with confidence, you can go, what I'm hearing on the amp is what it's going to be coming out. It's a funny thing, Larry Mitchell kindly invited me to sit in with him at the Dallas International Guitar Festival. And I brought that amp. Because it was, you got to understand that these guitar, it sounds more like a big kind of guitar festival. It's really a guitar show that they call a festival because they've got a line playing component. But, playing through a modeling amp at that event was a little bit of the anti-cork sniffer in me, because as much as there is a part of me that is a bit of a cork sniffer, if I'm really honest, stupidly so, but hey, what are you going to do? The other part is kind of like, let me plug into this modeling thing. And I had total confidence that the direct out going to the PA was going to sound like what I was hearing on stage. And that's such a relief to know, like, what, the sound guy or gal can't really screw this up unless they go out of the way to do it. It's a big deal. I am not using Tonex right now, so we're catching up here, but that's how far behind I'm. So that is the Mark 7. That's a little crooked behind me, actually. It needs to be centered there. But that's a great sounding amp. It's got great clean. Basically, it was originally supposed to be the Mark 6, but it took so long for it to come out. They called it the Mark 7 because they figured so much happened with that. DV8. You are going to get me into trouble. Deviant. Good morning, Viper. What's happening? We're on my very First pedal board this weekend after playing Models Direct front of house for years. Wish me luck. So let me give you a couple of pieces of advice, if I may. First of all, congratulations. There is a certain amount of this that is, it's a huge amount of fun. But I will say, if you're anything like me, there's a kind of a peak, and then there's the climb of the peak, and so there's the excitement, and all of a sudden you get to a point where you're like, this is a giant pain in the butt, because there's all this stuff. So I would suggest getting a piece of cardboard and putting all your pedals on that cardboard, and then making sure, and then place your power supply kind of about where you would place it, even if it sits on top of something, and make sure all your runs work with the length of power you've got to get to each of your cables. And then, literally with them on that piece of cardboard. And the great thing is, if you got, you need to flip it over, you can kind of draw the outline of the pedals. And, that again, what you can then do is with the outline of the pedals and kind of like a Sharpie or something, you can get the pedals off of there. And then you can then, again, place where your power supply would be on the bottom side, and again, test the runs. The other thing about doing that without it being on the pedal board is you can see all your cable runs, you can measure all of those, and you can see, also, measure twice, cut once when it comes to if you're creating your own cables. And that process will really help you. The other thing is that the battle of the Velcro. Give me a moment. I am going to go off camera. Give me just a sec. Let me see if I can find it. Velcro, come here. Come here, boy. Velcro, come here. I thought it was over here, but no. Hiding. Okay. So I have a box with all sorts of different Velcro in it, and then there's this super duper kind of like, oh man, it's just like kind of crazy heavy duty Velcro that's so strong that whatever it sticks to, it pulls off the bottom of your pedals. So there's a point where the actual Velcrometry is too good. It grabs too much. So it's a fine line between, like, the other thing that happens is that you're constantly going to have stuff that's coming off. The wah-wah, if you're using a wah, it's just a disaster. Now this was from a company that has gone out of business, unfortunately. And this was one of my sad moments in the midst of many sad moments. So this was basically a boot that would fit on the bottom of a wah-wah that's got Velcro on it, and so you could mount that like that. But what happened was this had enough of a bond with the board that when I pulled it up, these guys made this out of plastic, and unfortunately, it's probably why they're out of business. It literally just, the screws on the bottom of the wah-wah pulled straight through this thing and basically ruined it. The reason I'm keeping it, other than the fact that I am a hoarder, is that I'm going to go to the store at some point. I'm going to put washers on here, and I'm going to see if that's going to allow me to bring this thing back to life, because mounting a wah-wah to your pedal board is just drama. Sorry. The other thing is the Dunlop. For whatever reason, I love the Dunlop stuff, but the jack on the side of the Dunlop wah, they always want to come loose. I don't know why it is. It just is. One of the things I would suggest trying, and it's a problem in terms of getting your pedals close together. That's the other reason you want to put stuff on the on a piece of cardboard, is also insert the plugs, even if they don't have the cable connected, into your pedals. I should do a video about this, because that's going to allow you to tell the spacing. So normally I would not have a straight power cable powering anything, that's on the side. Generally, and anywhere on the board, I put the straight end into the power supply and the kind of the right angle into whatever pedal, generally speaking. But in this instance, thinking out loud, what I'll do moving forward with the wah, and it means that you can't have it quite as snug as to whatever's to its, I think it's on the left, is that I'll use just kind of a straight plug, and I think that'll solve that problem. But for whatever reason, the right angle plugs just kind of want to work their way out of the power supply inlet there on there. So in terms of the challenge with the wah-wah is the bottom plate is held on by the 4 feet. And if you take the feet off, because the feet, if you put Velcro, the Velcro comes off. So if you take the feet off, then you've got the screw sticking up just a little bit. But you can put Velcro on the bottom of the bottom plate. The challenge is that thing heats up and then the Velcro kind of gets all mushy, and then it peels off. And because of the weight of the pedal, if your pedal board gets turned upside down, the wah-wah comes off. So depending on how industrious you are, you could make one of these, or anybody you know that's maybe got a 3D printer or something, you could make one of these, and you need to make one for each end of the wah. But it would be pretty easy to make this, and then you could just start doing your own. All right. Let me know how it goes. Congratulations. First of all, it is a heck of a lot of fun, but you get to a certain point, you're like, oh, man, it's just like, you just want it to be done. So, okay. Hold on. Okay, there we go. In any case, have fun. Enjoy. I wish you luck, my friend. Kevin, what interests me in the Triple Crown is the fact you can use different power tubes in it. Thanks for the info. Okay, so there are 2 Badlander 100 heads there, and I've got the tape. I use painter's tape these days. I'm getting a little too lazy to put together labels, but or simply I just don't want to waste the extra space on my little label maker. Whatever. Silliness. But I wrote that one's got 6L6s, and that one's got the EL34. So a number of the boogies. One of the great things about them is you can swap out the tubes, and they will self-bias. You just got to remember to they're automatically bias. You don't have to rebias it. Thank you. And there's a selector. You got to remember to flip the switch, little switch. And so that's another good reason to put some blue tape on the top, just as a reminder. You're like, oh, right. You know, if you swap out, so that one has got the EL34s, that one's got the 6L6s. And like those, you can do that with a number of the boogies that are here. And I absolutely love that, because each of the different tubes has a very unique character. So that's really, really, really cool. So with pleasure, and there will be kind of a later than sooner, a boogie amp roundup of all the things that are kind of the things in the product line that I'm going to do. Okay, cool. Braden, what's going on? Catalyst 200 with a firmware update to the CX spec is my main and practice amp. Catalyst is great. Just great. I happen to like the sound of the models in the pre-CX a little bit better. I can't tell you why. I've got both the original Catalyst 100, 112, and the CX here, and I just didn't bond. But if it's working for you, that is the most important thing. Hola, muy buen amigo. ¿Cómo está? Hola, hola, hola. Bien. I'm not doing salutations. For now, because I found at the end of last week's thing, I was like, you know what? I spent so much time doing it. I'm not serving people in the best way that I can. In any case, good morning. Steve Gornowski! What's happening, my man? That's a funny-looking bass, but I say that every time. Always a pleasure. Hello. That is a smart question. The next video I'm going to do after this, that's in Boogie Gibson Epiphone world, is going to be on a Badlander roundup. And so those are 2 Badlander 50 combos. Those are the 100 heads that I mentioned, and over there, hang on a second. One of my favorite things to be able to do. Hold on, let me sneak over here. Come here, let me pull the stuff that's on top off there. Hang on. I'll be there in a minute. I'm coming. Here we go. Come on. There you go. Look at that. Isn't that cute? Gotta remember to pull that out of frame when I do that video later. So that is the Badlander 25. And so that is an EL84. Those are normally an EL34. But the biggest difference is the output transformer. And well, no, that's not true. The EL84s are a markedly different tube. But the output transformer, the difference between the 50 watt and the 100 watt, is a very, very, very big deal if kicking people in the balls with your rhythm guitar tone matters to you. Which for me, it actually does. I realize that's not really a super kind of like, hey, hello, let me kick you in the balls with my rhythm guitar. But you don't tell people you're going to do it. You just do it, if you know what I'm saying. And more importantly, it's just that thing that pushes the guitar forward in the mix, and you're like, flippin' A, that thing's got balls. And the larger output transformer in the 100 watt amps is a very important thing. So interestingly enough, for the Badlanders, I really felt I needed it. The Badlander 50's got a great sound. That's what I've been playing through for the past couple of weeks, as I recall. But the 100 is just that next bit, like, oh, flip it. Hey, just like I said, it's just like kicking somebody, you're like right smack in the balls, and they're like, oh man, holy cow. So with the Triple Crown, the one that I bought, the first one, was a 50 watter. And for the sound that I wanted to get, I didn't need the extra girth that I believe I would get from the 100 watt, not having played it. But the 50 watt was perfect, and I saw the second one. It was like $1,100. I mean, you know, it was some insane deal. I saw it. You know, I will say one of the places I shop for amps when I'm, you know, casually looking is Guitar Center, because if it shows up and there's a problem with it, you take it back. You got 45 days. So I ended up getting the second one, and I'm like, oh, they're great. Now the interesting thing is that I picked up two used amps. One of the Badlander 100 heads, and then what was it? In any case, they both smelled like incense. I'm like, what are the odds that I buy two used amps in a row? And I'm like just for the sake of conversation, like I'm super sensitive to like smells, so you don't see me burning incense. If you're into incense, no bad vibes towards you. I get it, but I do not burn incense in my studio. It makes your flipping gear smell like incense. And the next person who buys your gear opens up the box and they're like, what the hell is that smell? And I was on my phone with my boogie handler. He's like, oh, it sounds like incense. And I was like, that's exactly what that was. I'm like, it goes away after a while, but it's just like, my studio smells like their studio, which nothing personal. I want my studio to smell like my studio. I digress. The larger output transformer is a big deal, and it makes it for a more aggressive thing. It's tighter in the bottom end, but more importantly, just the way it just moves through the mix, nothing gets in the way of that. It's a great question. For rerunning my pedal board, I just ran some painter's tape over the Velcro on the board. There was just enough Velcro peeking through to hold the pedals in place when I had to flip it over, but not so much that it was a pain moving that. It's a great point. So one of the other things is that there will come a point where you have to flip things over, and that's where pedals start falling off, and you know, it's subject to various levels of profanity, and just like it's just kind of like it's a whole moment. So again, that's kind of where, you know, just trying to think, there's some easy way to, there isn't, get what's on the top side of the board on the bottom just so you could see it. You know, it would be really cool to have, you know, the mirror image on the bottom side so you can see how you're connecting stuff. However, there is a point where, you know, when it comes to actually kind of wiring all that stuff, you got to flip stuff over, and stuff has to be able to held on there. So I just ran some painter's tape over the Velcro on the board. There was just enough Velcro peeking through to hold the pedals in place when I had to flip it over, but not so much that it was a pain moving them. Oh, that's awesome. That's great to know. Well done. Thank you, sir. Sonia, good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Always a pleasure. Eric Vaughn, good morning to you. You're never late, my friend. Morning. Holy cow. Well, first of all, good morning to you. Always love that photo. Best Velcro is the dual lock. Okay. I'll make a note of that. Oh, my word. I haven't gotten to Chris's questions. Yeah, I've got a box full of Velcro that I went to find, and things are relatively organized, but every so often things go hiding. So there's all sorts of different types of Velcro. Find what works for you. I've heard the dual lock is very good. I have some ideas, prototypes floating around for mounting system for pedals on pedal board that would mount any shape of pedal without modifications or strange boots. I love that, but it needs some more time and effort before I can show it. Way to go. The world is waiting, Sonia. What do you do? It's like, that's awesome. You genius. Griffin, there we go. In terms of new gear, I just ordered the Brian May Rhapsody acoustic. Looking forward to trying it out. Awesome. Congratulations. Who makes that? I should know that, but, well, I don't. Okie dokie. Speaking of pedals, I converted 1/8 CS power jack on my EHX small clone and a DoD American to a 5.5 millimeter barrel jack this past week. About to do the same to my DoD FX 17 watt. Quality of life mods. Awesome. So that is, the thing is, there are people that are capable of actually doing intelligent stuff like that. I generally try and stick to the front side of the transaction. But way to go. You know, there is a whole world of people that tinker with pedals and do really cool stuff that I'm in a good way. I'm partially jealous, but I also know that's so far from my skill set that I have an admiration and a humility around it a lot. So way to go, dude. Plexidust, good morning. First timer, gosh darn it. Well, you know what? You know, so what's happened is that in weeks past when this, you know, somebody new or somebody I know, I always kind of play a salutation. But when they first admitted, and I love that photo there, first timer, you get a salutation. B flat's going to be the key. Welcome aboard. Hello, hello, hello. Plexidust indeed. My Schecter was made in Indonesia. So you know what? Hold on. I didn't click the right spot. There we go. So my apology to anybody from Indonesia that might be watching. That Gem Woody right there, manufactured in Indonesia. Great guitars. In particular, if there's one country I will say that is as consistent or more so than Japan and Korea in terms of like the guitars that I've played like coming out of there, the Indonesians are on fire. They really obviously have. I've never played an instrument coming from Indonesia at any price point, including really cheap ones, that I didn't go, the person that made this cared. And that's a really, really important thing. Very cool. Congratulations. Oh, well, hang on. Oh, you're also first time. Oh, hold on a second. F sharp. welcome aboard. Gunner it is. Awesome. Awesome. God bless, my friend. All right, Rafael, como está mi buen amigo? And it's about time for Chris's questions, gosh darn it. Alberto Rock Master. Hey there, man. I want to expand my amp collection and get an MT15 or a Mesa Mark 20 25 watt, which I think would be a Mark 525, which is that amp right there. Basically discontinued and studio environment. I have a Mark 5 90. Would I find it too much a tonal difference? Which one would I recommend? Great question. So I have not played the MT15. How do I say this? I tell you what. I have not bonded with any of the Paul Reed Smith amps I've played. There are lots of people who love the Archon. There are lots of people that love Paul's amps. That said, if you've got the Mark 590, the Mark 525, hold on, there we go, come on, there we go, is the cutest, most awesome, wonderful, holy cow, that little amp's got big balls. I'm gonna be teaching at the John Petrucci camp, and I'm gonna be teaching at the Corey Wong camp in like 2 weeks. I'm taking that in my carry-on because it fits in a carry-on with room for underwear and socks. And if I didn't have room for underwear and socks, I'd be washing them in the sink. That amp is awesome. It sounds great. It's got a great clean tone. It's got a great lead tone. It's got graphic EQ. It's nuts. I love it. So I am slightly biased, but that little flippin' amp, it's just a workhorse. It just sounds great. Let me just double check one thing. I think it's got Cab Clone DI on the back as opposed to IR. I know it doesn't have IR, but I think it's got Cab Clone DI, and I could look on the web, but I can actually just grab this guy instead. Gosh darn it. Come here. Come here. There we go. Almost there. Hang on. There we go. Okay. Now, here we go. On the back here. Let's see if I can not drop this. There we go. Cab Clone DI. So that is the predecessor to Cab Clone IR. So it is basically a filter. It's not an actual IR loader, for those of you that might want to know. One of the other things is that you have a ground lift on here, which is really important. There should be the ability to turn the cabinet. Let me flip this around. Give me a moment. There we go. So this second switch right here allows you to turn the speaker on or off. So basically the amp knows, like, hey, there's not a speaker connected, and it activates the internal reactive load. Or I should say internal load. It's got an effects loop. And you know, the thing is you got your two separate channels with modes, and they've each got their total separate controls. I mean, this thing is just a monster. Doesn't have MIDI. The reverb sounds really, really good. You have separate reverb level controls for both channels. Those are those knobs right in the smack in the center there. It's just an obscenely great little amplifier. So I know that at the Corey camp, you know, I've been kind of warned, you know, Doug, you know, don't go there and shred, which is probably a good warning, given that my tendency to want to shred. But it's going to be the perfect amp for both camps. So to answer your question, you know, I'm putting my money where my camp is or something. I don't know. I love that amp. Really appreciate your asking. And yeah, I hope that helps. You know, Mark Tremonti is a great player. The other thing that you might ask, though, is Mark Tremonti known for a fabulous clean tone? And hence, you know, is the MT15 going to have a great clean tone if that's not necessarily the essence of what's going on? My guess is it's got a great rhythm and lead tone, but maybe, you know, like, you know, I don't know, but, you know, if it were like a Corey Wong amp or a John Petrucci amp, I know that the clean channel is a really important part of that. That is to say, when I think of most of Mark's music, I just think of I think of dual rec. No, I think of triple recs. I said it. How naughty. Good morning, Brian. Hello, my friend. It's made by Sir Brian May, his company. Way to go. Isn't that a sweet looking flying V? Holy cow. I'm looking to put some Seymour Duncan whole lot of humbucker pickups in my 59 Epiphone Les Paul. I do not know about that pickup. So just, first of all, I am a DiMarzio endorser. Many of my guitars, but not all of them, have DiMarzios in there. The first thing that I usually do is I put in, and it's the strangest name, the 36th anniversary PAF. I guess they were going for the 35th year, but they were still tinkering around or something. I don't know. It is a phenomenal pickup. There is a guitar that's here that has, the good folks at Gibson were kind enough to send me their hum-canceling P90. So there'll be a video about that coming sooner than later. So in terms of Duncan World, the JB and the 59 are classic. So if you are into the Duncan thing, and you're going, hey, you know what? Let me get a bridge pickup. It's got a little extra something on it. You cannot go wrong with a JB. Great pickup. And then put the 59 in the neck if you're kind of like a hum kind of person. However, that whole lot of humbucker or humbuckers sounds really cool. Are there separate neck and bridge pickups, or are they just kind of one and done? I'm a jack of all trades, master of few. Well, you have mastered honesty, if that is in fact. Well, first of all, it's a great attribute, but I have a feeling you're being humble as well, which is an equally desirable attribute. So there. I have the Mark 590, but would like to have an overdrive pedal. What do you think of Mesa throttle box? Do I need a graphic EQ for that pedal when I have the graphic EQ on the amp? Oh boy. So the funny thing is, if you're looking for these guys, they have gone through the roof. They're like $500 pretty much if you can find them. Like, they show up on Reverb and they're gone just instantaneously. So the throttle box. That is, of course, me going, am I going off frame again, which is really, I think I have the throttle box EQ, but I'm in the M's. No, I don't see it. Live to drop a pedal another day. All right. So the great thing is that I think the throttle box has two different versions. There's the one without the graphic EQ, and then this one with the graphic EQ. I would strongly suggest going for the one with the graphic EQ, simply because that extra bit of sculpting I think is really, really cool. I'm 90% positive I own one, and I've never played it. So all that to say, great question. And so even if you've got the graphic EQ on the amp, it allows you, I have to say this, 99% of the time when I use a drive pedal, I'm going, I wish I could set the EQ points in the Q. That's what I wish I could do. There was the worst part about getting old is names. It's actually a very interesting thing, is I'm extremely conscious of my, I'm just going to say it's a cognitive decline. I'm 60 going on 61, but I have never until the past 12 months had words and names. There's occasionally, what's that guy's name again? Ingve, somebody, no. But just these things start to decline. In any case, Teese? Jeffrey Teese, wah. He makes a wah that you can adjust all this. And the Dunlop, actually, you can adjust the frequency and the Q. That is to say, how wide or narrow that is. So you can do that in wah-wah world, but it would be really cool to have a drive pedal where you could actually adjust the frequency and the Q of that EQ point. It would be really cool. Yeah. Either did I, right? Got to use the amp. Soldano, Astroverb 16, 212, 50 watt drivers, 16 ohm. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Way to go, my man. I hope you're letting the neighbors hear it. With great pleasure. And again, that photo, holy cow. Oh, there we go. Excellent, excellent. Jimmy Arsenault. Excellent, excellent. My dear, dear, dear friend. Okay. Hey, Jem, what's going on, Rockstar? This is just what I need on a Saturday day off from tour, a Doug lesson. Well, for those of you who don't know, Jem is an influencer, great guitar player, has a spicy Instagram and YouTube channel all about guitar. For those of you that play at church, he is especially well known for his MD/music directing videos, and he's a phenomenal guitar player. He's out on tour with Sidewalk Prophets right now, and he did, I gotta say, what may be if not the coolest, one of the coolest guitar stage moves ever. So he, whatever festival they were at, they had a ramp, right? You know, the ramp that comes out from the stage, and he turns around and he moonwalks while playing a rad solo on the ramp. I'm like, that is showbiz right there in a great way. Hey, Jem, great to see you, my friend. Rockstar. Chris Lewis, my dear, 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 dear friend. Hello. I think of you much more often than I call you. That's pretty lame, isn't it? I've recently started dropping Doug Aldrich pickups into my guitars. I'm usually not into aggressive guitars, but they sound nice and round. Are they Duncan's? Who makes the Doug Aldrich pickups? How would I describe the sound of the original PAFs in the gold top? Well, why don't I grab it? And I'm going to do the... No, I'm going to be respectful here. Hang on. Put the amp on standby. Grab another stand. Where did I put them? I put them out of frame. There we go. The amazing thing, for those of you that have a room that, like this one, goes from being like actually organized to like it looks like a hurricane hit, and it goes back and forth between the two. You know my world. The good news is right now things are actually relatively organized. Of course, the fantasy is I'm going to keep it that way. So, all right, you. So the interesting thing about this particular guitar. It is a 1954 Les Paul. It has been around. And now I knew it was gonna do that. The thing about this guitar, and I don't know whether it's the pickups or just the guitar, and I've noticed this about a number of the Les Pauls that I play, is that to get the balance between the bridge and the neck pickup, and I don't know whether, again, it was a disparate thing between the two P90s that are in this guitar, but in the bridge position, I find that I have to back off. Back off on the tone control. I love this guitar, but I find that I either have to set the amp to the neck pickup or I have to set the amp to the bridge pickup. And most of the time I'm playing this guitar, it is in the bridge pickup. Because this is actually a gold top, there's a actually I haven't taken the covers off, so for those of you that do the vintage guitar thing with a gold top, sometimes there was a maple cap and sometimes there wasn't. That is to say, sometimes they didn't do that, but I think this one has a maple cap on it. But comparatively speaking, the bridge pickup is, I could probably lower the bridge side a little bit. It's just a little bright compared to the neck pickup. That said, it's a beautiful guitar. And, you know, this guitar changed my life. Basically, I got this guitar and I started writing. And I started writing and I started writing. I was like, I'm writing an album. And the music that I'm making now, the 2 albums that I'm getting ready to put out, would never have happened if it weren't for this guitar. A guitar can change your life. And this guitar transformed everything about my musical experience. And I'm so grateful. And I'm a little emotional. I don't play this guitar, it's the Epiphone, nearly as much, but Robin Ford talks about old wood. Anyway, sorry. You know Jim. That's awesome. So the funny thing is, to answer your question again, Jim, I think the pickups in the Epiphone, they're Pro Booker. They're either 1 and a 2 or 2 and a 3. Like I said, I've seen them in 2 different places. They're better balanced, and they just, especially with the guitar, they sit a little bit better. This guitar would have originally come with P90s on it, and so this is what they call a Les Paul conversion. So again, you can tell that it's a 53 or 54, but it would have been a 54 because of the wraparound tailpiece, which has its pros and its cons. Generally, this guitar intonates really well, but the disadvantages is with you know, the stop bar, tailpiece, and bridge. You can adjust the tension of the instrument by raising or lowering the tailpiece there. And it does have a slightly different sound, but you know, sorry. The other thing that I realized about this guitar compared to that one, this has got the Dunlop custom set. It's a heavy core set, so basically it's a 9 through 42 But this is a hold on. That's the great thing about having stuff organized. If you don't own one of these dealios, and I think it's called a caliper, it's a great vehicle to have. So it allows you to measure, in this case, low E string. It's saying 43. It means that this, in fact, is 9 through 42 heavy core. So basically, come on, you can put it back in there. You can do this. Come on. That's why I don't work on my own guitars. I can barely put this thing back in the box. But the deal is, and it goes back in its spot. It has a spot where it lives now. The Dunlop strings that I use they've got a heavy core. So basically, the 9 through 42, the 24, 32, and 42 are heavy core. So they behave more like a set of 10s because of the thicker core. But because of the thickness of the string, because I was so used to playing with 9s and I was a little bit of a weenie, I wasn't used to playing with the thickness of 10s down on the bottom strings there. But I've since gotten used to it on that guitar, which got 10s on it. So I'm going to be swapping this guitar out through the 10 through 46, not through 10 through 52. I'm not quite that much of a macho dude, but the 10 through 46 heavy cores, which is what's actually on that guitar now, and it's what is on a couple of other things around here. But I'm realizing, okay, and traditionally people who play Fenders, they put their 9 through 42 on the Fender scale instruments and put a 10 through 46 on the Gibson scale instruments, and I'm not quite sure why I didn't do that initially on this guitar, but this guitar will sound the bridge pickup. Great guitar. All right. Gosh darn it. Jimmy, what's up? And Jimmy as well. Okay. Awesome. Oh, Wessler, I didn't know that was you, dude. I can't help but greet people. Gosh darn it. Moonwalk. Oh, dude, it was so badass. I was like, I can't believe what I'm watching. Rick Harrison, hello, my friend, my friend, my friend. Yes, he did get that gig. Gosh darn it. Oh, awesome, awesome. Okay, great. Okay, cool. I have an MT-15, good, clean. Used to have a Mark 525. I may get another one if I can't swing for the Triple Crown. Awesome. Keep me posted, please. Well, this is so exciting. Awesome. Yep, sir. On the Aldrich pickups. That's sir. It's amazing, Jim. Congrats on your tour. As much as I love it here in Michigan, Tennessee is beautiful. It sure is. So you're another Michigander. Lovely. My mom was from Benton Harbor. So I've spent time in Michigan. So awesome. Jimmy, we have a gig tonight. Need to be on the guest list. Haha. As if. So, I would love to come, but tonight I can't. I've got to finish the video for this, but I'd love to come support. Would be my pleasure. Get a chance to hear you croon and shred away, my friend. We need to do a better job actually, I need to do a better job of being in touch so I can know when you're playing. That would be great. It is a really balanced Les Paul. This guy, for me, though, the bridge pickup, and so years ago, Bobby Valdez, hello. I missed you, my friend. Give me one moment. I'm going to answer that question. Let me get back to this, and then I'm going to try and the Focus Fox. Some people think this is the heavy metal sound. This is the Focus Fox. Years ago, I've got a buddy. He collects vintage guitars and art, but vintage guitars, and he showed up with 5 bursts, and I mean like bursty bursts, like, and a couple of them had creams for those of you that, you know, so most PAFs are black, double blacks. Some are zebra, one black, one white, and then every so often they're actually cream, where they didn't get the dye. Rumor has it that they were in war and they needed the ink for stuff, wartime, something, I don't know. So in any case, he had different guitars, and I got a chance to play these 5 different bursts, and they were all different. All different. And he talked about swapping the pickups between the guitars. In theory, with an instrument like this, underneath here, you have what's called the wiring harness. And ideally, you want to leave that as stock as possible on a 50s guitar. But he seemed to know a thing or two, so he ended up saying, I'm going to swap the pickups in these 2 guitars. And he brought the 2 guitars back, and both of them sounded markedly better in the bridge position. And I was like, okay. So that is to say, the right PAF in the right guitar, because they did not have the kind of exacting standards about how many winds, and you know, the other thing is, back in the day, I'm not a pickup expert, so please let me clarify what I'm going to say. There was an article that I have to find a way of being able to share it. I think that's dust. That's embarrassing. Yuck. That talks about the DC resistance, basically measured at like 12K or 7K, often can be a way of measuring how hot a pickup it is. However, that's not always the case, because sometimes the thickness of the wire and the types of magnets can influence that, and also how the pickups are wound. So all that is, there's a bunch of stuff that I don't really honestly understand. Other than that, usually you look at, you know, back in the days, like, how many K is that pickup? Oh, you know, 12K, you know, like the X2N was this stupidly odd pickup. I mean, it's like 12 or 14K, just over the top. If you needed more gain than was reasonably possible, they had you covered. Same with the Duncan Invader, right? They were like, bigger has to be better. Or at least, you know, that's, you know, if you think about the hair and the boots and the racks. In any case, the idea is that I could probably find a better sounding PAF to match this neck pickup. I think the neck pickup it's a really pretty sound. And I would probably make some adjustments back at the amp for this guitar a little bit. It's a little bit brighter than the other one. But it's got a woodiness to it, and a throatiness. A little bit of sustain there. The funny thing is that my playing has changed a lot since I was playing this guitar. A lot. Like, I lived by this guitar for many months. But it's interesting. This is like I need to spend a little bit of time hanging out with this thing because there's some, especially that neck pickup. There's some. There's a bunch of tones needing to be discovered in this guitar. All right. It's a really warm neck pickup, but still it's got enough top end. Yeah, where's the gig, gosh darn it? Greenie is sweet. Greenie is hiding right there, actually. But yes. Robert, how are you, my man? Great to see you. Okay, so these racks, and I've got the set, but so this one and those two, they're on Amazon, and they're $59, and I love them. Oh, hang on, let me see where you are you coming? You're coming from Facebook. Hang on. Amazon. History. Come on. You can do it. Come on. My orders. Thank you. There we go. All right, these are made by Von D Note. Hang on a second. It's this link. Unfortunately, is not going to come through on Facebook, but the brand is. Well, here's the information, and this you'll be able. Oh, sorry, you're not going to be able to flip and get to that. Hang on. The brand is, hang on, let me get, there we go. Can I select that? You gonna let me? No. Maybe you will. There we go. Okay. That's how you spell it. But they're really, really cool. They can handle about 60 pounds. They can be top heavy if you're not careful, but basically, I think I got two because I knew I was going to need them, and I ended up getting two more. So everything rolls around. I'm not going to roll it because I'm in the middle of a video shoot. But what's neat is that you can put stuff down below and above. Super, super happy with them. Hold on just one sec. Let me catch everything here. Okay, good. David, what's going on? That tone sounds like, thank you so much. Even through my crappy phone. How are you? Great to see you, my friend. Trust everything is going great. Always a pleasure. Speedwagoner, what's happening? Hello. Albert. Oh, yeah, that access tone. Albert and I are kindred spirits. Speaking of old wood, wife and I are going to see Robin Trower come on in Houston in October. Have been a huge fan ever since I saw Steve Lukather cover Bridge the Size at the Satch Camp. I saw Trower 3, maybe 5 years ago. Just great. Still has it. Oh, come on, Brett. So those old gold tops. Great to see you, by the way. Hello. You know, the concept of old wood is something. Okay, let's see. I've got a lesson that starts in 12 minutes, but let me. Oh no, I can't. Yeah, I can. Hang on. All right. Not what I intended to do, but that's okay. One of the great things about this guitar, which was not a small purchase, but there you go. They in the process of kind of figuring out the custom shop thing at Gibson, they figured out how to get the wood to sound old. And there's something about controls all the way up. Take this guy here. I'm going to take the neck pickup down a little bit. That kind of out of phase business right there. That honky bit. Hold on. Pot. A little better. Begins to fade out. That's the bridge pickup again. Backed off. All the way up on the Junket Road. And maybe it's just I like the sound of it backed off. Split the difference. There are 10s on this one. I'm not going to waste your time. In any case, I'm 9.5 to 46 on all my guitars. You know, my buddy Brian at Dunlop sent me some 9.5s, and there you go. And yes, hearing Luke play that, I bet you missed that guitar, my man. Holy cow. I don't know that. Huh. Hey, Jim, I'm running through the Mark 7. And I do have that 112 open back with a custom 90 loaded in it. But I'm also coming out of the Cab Clone IR on, I don't know which IR that is to say, which boogie cabinet it's the IR of. But one of the big things for those of you, Oh. Yes, were you there? Hello, DFW. No place on earth loves guitar more than Texas. Matt Blackett, you know, I normally, so the deal is that traditionally last week what I did was everybody that when they show up and I see them in the chat, I play some sort of salutation. But I've kind of had to chill that out because last week I kind of asked my buddy Albert, I was like, dude, am I just doing this too much? But we kind of agreed that for people that I don't know if Matt, if this is your first time hanging out here, but I'm just going to say that for now it is great to see you, my friend. So I'm going to think you get some B flat. Everybody, let me introduce you to my buddy Mac Blackett, who I've known for 40 years. He's the man from Everton Bridges. Mean guitar player. Worked at Guitar Player magazine. Originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, but I think he's in the Pacific Northwest. And there's a lovely guy. Hello, Matt. Great to see you. Brett, sorry about your guitar. Says Narrows. You get E flat, my man. Now, Chris says Narrows. Where do I start? I need an open string key to not blow. Imagine that's Les Paul and G strings out of tune. So Chris is one of the esteemed members of the Dreamcatcher event staff. Fabulous guitar player. The thing of many things he does, he's got the pedal finger down at a rate of speed that I hate to say it, I'm just jealous. He can boogie that, but he's got a beautiful finger tone. He's got a great new song that's out. And he's an integral part of the Dreamcatcher event staff. I'm going to be seeing him in Vegas at the John Petrucci camp. And then we're heading out to Nashville. For little Corey Wong. Chris. All right, hey, I've got a guitar lesson that starts in about a minute and a half. So, ladies and gentlemen, it has been so much fun. I think this may be my favorite show to date. I chilled back on the salutations, but I did not totally abandon them. Mark 7, 3500, my wifey will kick me. Hold on. Love the new song. Cisneros. Isn't it great? Right. Okay. Chris Cisneros. He's on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube. You're on YouTube, right? I heard the song on Facebook. In any case, I got to go. Great seeing everybody. Thanks so much from the bottom of my heart. I always say it, but I'm so grateful to be able to hang out with you. Ringy Dinky. Gosh darn it. Oh, I love that. Thanks so much. All right, you guys. Have a great one. I will see you next week. I will see you soon, Chris. Much love. Thank you so much, everybody. Until I see you next week, thanks again. Cheers for now.